up, get out right out of your bed, that's your quicksand. Getting rid anxiety and head, you can fix it. Rid of stigmas, all of them you said, we ain't listening. Just remember, try to do your best, you can win this. Maurice Benard, State of Mind.
Hi, this is State of Mind on a Sunday at 10 in the morning, or anytime Sunday or anytime the next day, but it starts at 10 in the morning Sunday. And somebody just dropped a pen. Yes, thank you. Today we have your questions, because I know you guys love this stuff. You love the questions. And I don't do enough of it, but I'm doing it now with somebody very important. Her name is Suzette GLASNER, PhD, is an associate professor, listen to this, at the University of California in the Department of Psychiatry. If I didn't say that right, who cares? And Biobehavior Sciences. Damn, that's like top grade intelligence. She received her PhD from the University of Minnesota and completed her postdoctoral education at University of California at San Diego and the Veterans Affairs San Diego Healthcare System. This is great for me to read, and I'll tell you what. Not only are we all, happy that she's here, but I get to read these big words and do well. And in high school, forget it. Her research focuses on making evidence-based treatments for addiction more accessible using digital health platforms. And she serves as Chief Scientific Officer at Pelago, a digital substance use management clinic. I haven't messed up a word yet. I mean, I did a little bit, but not really. Her psychotherapy practice includes adults, couples, families, and draws on the most well-studied therapy techniques for a range of conditions. So that said, she's been here before. She's back again because she's just knows her stuff. How are you, Suzette?
I'm great, thank you.
You good?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got the questions we're gonna ask you a little later. Why don't you go back to this is her book, Addiction, What Everyone Needs to Know. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. And she has a podcast. What's the podcast?
It's the Dr. Suzette GLASNER podcast.
All right. You got to check out that podcast everywhere where you check out podcasts. I actually saw some stuff. I thought it was very good.
Thank you.
I did. Tell us, like, I know you've been here before, but tell us about yourself a little bit, like where you're from and all that.
Yeah. I'm from right here in Los Angeles, born and raised here. I ventured off to the Midwest where I froze for 4 years at the University of Minnesota. It was totally worth it, but it was.
Is it always freezing there?
I mean, no. When it's hot, it's sticky hot.
Oh, it is?
And when it's freezing, it's like really freezing.
Wow.
So it was like having grown up in sunny California.
Did you say sunny?
I did. No pun intended. Oh, that's a good one. So yeah, sunny California, going to Minnesota for 4 years. I was really ready to go after 4 years. So I finished my doctoral degree pretty fast. But learned a lot there, and also learned a lot just about how people live under very, very different conditions.
Oh, yeah.
Very different conditions. Yeah.
Well, we talked about uncomfortable.
Yeah. There's a lot of discomfort over
right?
there. But yeah. But people have such a positive mindset about it. They're really nice. They're really positive, really friendly. It's a little bit different growing up in LA, which is a way of life for me, It didn't bother me, but I realized how different it could be when people are saying hi to me at the grocery store. And at first it was like, what do they want?
Yeah.
But I got used to it. It was nice.
Um, so you have how many brothers and sisters?
I have 2 sisters. I'm the baby.
Oh, you're the baby, so am I. I'm the baby. How do you like being the baby?
I like it.
Yeah,
Everybody wants to take care of me,
I like
even
it too.
now.
Yeah, I like it too. So we're gonna talk about a theme. You want to get into some anxiety stuff. So let's get into it. What do
Where
you
do we
think?
start?
I don't know. Where do you want to start? You know, I want you to kind of take the wheel. Isn't that a song?
Uh,
It's an anxiety look. Anxiety in my life, I didn't know what anxiety was or felt like till I was in my 30s. Because everything before that was bipolar, was manic episodes, nervous breakdowns, right? And depression. So I didn't know what anxiety was until, I think I've said it, I don't know if I've said it, but until one day, um, it was a pressure week for me at General Hospital. And the director, what's her famous director, wanted to see me. Basically, it was my role, but she wanted to meet me, but she was in Canada. So it was a movie with Eddie Murphy called I Spy. So I'm like, oh yeah, I got it. I just gotta fly out there and say hi, whatever. So I get to the airport and I don't have my passport. So I can't go.
no.
So now you got that pressure. And as you know, a lot of the stuff comes from stress and pressure, right? So I couldn't go. So now I'm whatever. And then now I'm doing an appearance in Pittsburgh. And we get to the airport and they're giving me a hard time that I can't get on the plane. So now we got more stress. So my friend's like, blah, blah, blah. My friend's like, this is Sonny from General Hospital.
Let him on.
Right? And then somebody ended up recognizing me. Lets us on first. As we're walking by, I hear, fuck you guys, motherfuckers. So we get on the plane. I sit down. My buddy's standing up. This guy walks by right in front of us, and he says, you guys are fucking special, huh? And my friend said that I looked like Joe Frazier. My eyes were black. And I looked at the guy. I said, hey, why don't you and we go out and we talk about this? And he, no, I don't need to. Got scared. Well, I sat down with my buddy. That's a lot of pressure. So I sit down with my buddy and I fall asleep. I wake up. I said, we there? He says, no, we haven't left. And I started to feel like stuff, man. And I said, oh no, I'm having a nervous breakdown. It's because I hadn't had anxiety. I said, I think I'm having nervous. He goes, no, he goes, have a drink. And then he goes, just relax for that. So I tried, but it was real bad and I fell asleep again. And then I woke up and I felt like I needed to take all my clothes off and get off this plane, but we're in the air now. So I had to deal with that.
Rough.
Yeah. So that's my beginning with anxiety.
How long was the plane ride?
To Pittsburgh from LA.
Okay. That was not short.
Not
How
short.
did you get through that long ride feeling like that?
It's a great question. I don't remember. I just did it. Like I'd get up to make it feel better. And I remember going to the right, looking at that guy, looking at me, that guy that was, and it was just, but I was scared now. I'm a different guy now. I ain't King Kong. Now I'm like fragile and scared. But then what happens is I finally get there. We came back that night. Soon as the doors closed, I jumped up. I said, "Get me off this fucking plane now. We can't." It was 9/11. "Get me off this plane now." Can't. My friend says, "That's Sonny again." and she's like, "No, we can't. I'm sorry." I said, "Unless you want me to go berserk on this plane, you got to get me off." So they opened the doors. Cops came. It was all ugly. Yeah. So that was the first of my anxiety. And the problem is, I'm feeling great now, but the problem is, it doesn't leave. Like, Freddy Krueger. It's like Freddy Krueger is with me all the time. And I just had another little Freddy knocking on the door. Freddy is anxiety, knocking on my door saying, "Ah," and I'm like, but I told you I got through it. I read Eckhart Tolle, and Eckhart Tolle says, pain loves pain. Pain despises joy, which really stuck with me. And it also said, don't run when anxiety comes. Stay in it. Be as one, let's say, as opposed to trying to be thinking that that's the monster and you're the... And I did it, helped, and then I went to go work out. And that 45 minutes, this is good for people, that 45 minutes of not thinking except hitting this bag, I got through it. Pretty proud of myself.
That's awesome. And actually, there's so much in what you said just now that lines up with how we understand anxiety and how we understand it to be effectively treated. I'm going to try to unpack some of it. Like the first one is, some people know this, but not everybody. Anxiety actually, it has a purpose for us. It is, I know people say that, right? And you're like, yeah, but it feels horrible. But a little bit of anxiety helps us perform. A little bit of anxiety when you're on stage or when you're, facilitating state of mind on a topic that you haven't thought about before. Like a little bit of anxiety will get you in a frame of mind where you're thinking critically and you're trying to do well and all of that. And the anxiety system is also designed to protect us. So, the whole fight or flight response, right? Like when you're in danger, your body does a lot of the things that it does during a panic attack, actually. But when you're in danger, let's say your example that you gave with the plane, someone's threatening you, right? So your body's going to do certain things to prepare to deal with that, right? So it's going to kick up your heart rate. It's going to, your breathing's going to get a little more shallow. All of those things are you're going to be a little bit more focused with your attention. That's all getting you ready to either fight that guy or to get out of there.
Right.
So it's that's your body's way of preparing you to keep yourself safe.
Right. But let me ask you a question. Why? I get all that, but afterwards, why does anxiety come?
Right. So that's the thing. This is where the mind-body connection is a really fascinating thing, is that whole system in our nervous system is designed to do all those things in the face of danger, but it can get triggered anytime you perceive in your mind that there's a threat or a danger. And we humans, when we have anxiety, there is this potential for our brain to misfire. It sort of sends a signal there's danger here, but actually there isn't.
Yeah.
But your body reacts the same way as if this guy is coming up there trying to threaten you in
Yeah.
some way, or as if there's a burglar in your house. And so, like, a lot of the therapeutic kind of solutions to this is to know the difference and to be able to tell yourself, I mean, just like you're talking about Freddie, to be able to tell yourself, like, oh no, that's just Freddie.
Yeah.
But there's no real danger here. Like, that's what you would need to say to yourself on the plane. That's what you need to say to yourself in a situation where you start to feel that way. And there are people who are wired to be a little more sensitive to their body also. So there's like this idea called anxiety sensitivity, and people who have diagnosable anxiety have higher levels of sensitivity. It's like if two people are walking down the street and one person's like vulnerable to anxiety and the other person is not. And you start walking a little bit fast because the light is turning, and the person with anxiety notices their heart skips a beat and goes,
Yeah.
what is that? Like, am I going to go into a panic attack now? And then you can get yourself really worked up, and then those symptoms get worse because you're perceiving that there's something wrong with you. The person who doesn't have anxiety is going to go, oh, my heart just skipped a beat. Let me slow down.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So, I mean, really, like, step one is being able to say, that's just anxiety. Like, it's not for real.
Yeah, I said the last one. I said it's just a feeling. It's just a feeling. And that helped. Because it is, right? Now, why would that anxiety come? Let me tell you this last one. This was about 3 weeks ago. Came out of nowhere, man. Usually when I have anxiety, it comes from ego or something like that triggers the anxiety. Something happens. This one, everything's good. I'm in my home, it's immaculate. And all of a sudden I wake up in the morning, walk in the living room. Here it is. I'm like, what? Because nothing, why does that happen?
So I don't know if we have a good answer for that, but that is like
I
one of the
know.
diagnostic indicators of an anxiety attack is that it seems to come out of nowhere. Suddenly
that one did.
start to feel those symptoms. But what happens as a result is what really makes it like a diagnosable panic disorder.
Yeah.
Is that whatever was going on around you or whatever was in your environment, your brain sort of like picks up these like kind of associations that may or may not mean anything. But it's like, oh, where were you when that happened? You were
in my living room.
in your living room here.
Well, I was walking from my bedroom past the piano room, and then when I started feeling it, Freddie, I'm like, motherfucker. I went out to the gazebo and read Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, and that's when I started getting a lot of nice stuff from there.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Okay.
So after I worked out, anxiety gone. That hasn't happened to me. Usually like on a plane, it takes a half hour. This one was good, man. I got through it quick. Now I believe though, I think you'll agree. You know my gear thing that I tell all the time. I probably wasn't maybe 3 to 4th gear at that point. Got through it. But I think if you get to 5th, 6th, 7th, you're fucked. Is that kind of the way?
Like when it gets so severe that it feels totally out of hand.
Yeah.
There's no stopping it.
But
well,
we got to not let that happen, right?
we got to try to prevent that from happening. But I think you should know that even if that happens, there is a way out of it.
Okay.
So there's this exercise. It's called the sober breathing exercise. Because you were talking about mindfulness, basically. You were saying what helps me is to like let it in and not avoid it.
Yes.
And what I was going to say just a moment ago about when you start associating anxiety with different places, it's when I sit in that chair in my living room, or it's, when I go to that grocery store, or when I'm driving my car, whatever it is, you'll start to naturally, because humans don't like to suffer, which is normal, but you'll start to naturally want to avoid some of those things. Right? Like you want to get away from them. Like, oh, I don't want to go there, or I don't want to stay here too long because I'm going to start to feel anxious and I don't know how I'm going to get out of here, intact. And And so the the weird thing about anxiety is that the more you avoid it, the worse
I
it
know.
gets. It just rears its ugly head over and over again. And in a way it's because what you're teaching yourself by avoiding it is that you can't handle it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the more you teach yourself, I
Right.
got to get out of here because I can't handle this. I can't go to that place because I can't handle what's going to happen.
Yeah.
The smaller your world becomes,
Yeah.
and the
Right.
less faith you have in yourself that you can cope with whatever's thrown at you.
So isn't the best thing to do, although it's very difficult with anxiety, but if you're uncomfortable about something, make yourself uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, it's one example. It's not the only thing you can do, but one of my kind of therapy go-tos that I like is this sober breathing exercise. And I know the acronym is sober and you think it's like it's for addiction, but it actually works for anything, but it happens to be like termed sober because it helps some people get out of cravings without using a substance, right? And the idea is that we're kind of like on this there's this concept of like being on autopilot. Has anyone talked about that? Do you?
No.
Okay.
I like
So,
it though.
yeah, it's what a lot of us do. Like, most of us are on autopilot most of the time, which is that we're not really in this moment. We're somewhere else in our heads. Like, you get
Mhm.
up in the morning, you're
Mhm.
brushing your teeth. Are you like in that moment brushing your teeth and feeling the bristles on your teeth? Probably not. You're thinking about what do I have to do
Mhm.
today? What's
Mhm.
going on state of mind?
Mhm. Mhm.
Memorize my lines. Oh, I have to take, my kid here or there. Or you're in the past. Like usually we're either in the future,
Yeah.
planning the day or the next week or the other things that we have to do. Or we're like ruminating about what I did yesterday or how did
Right.
I look or what did so and so think of me and
Right.
how did I perform, right? And so we're in that autopilot mode. And when we have anxiety, we can get into a sort of autopilot way of acting with the anxiety that we're not really thinking about. You're not thinking about what's going on right now. You're thinking about getting out of what's going on right
Right.
now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like some of the things that people do when they're trying to get out of what's happening right now is they do really unhealthy things. Like they isolate, they drink,
Yeah. Yeah.
it depends on what the behavior is or if the autopilot is related to other feelings than anxiety like anger, maybe the
Yeah.
autopilot mode is to lash out at somebody or
Right.
like all of that is happening without like a lot of awareness. So like this sober
I have a
breathing,
way of letting one thought go to a million.
that's autopilot,
Exactly. Way out autopilot.
way autopilot. So the sober breathing exercise, we could do it if you wanted to
Do
try
it.
it. You
Do
wanna
it.
do it? Okay. Um, so I'll take you through each of like
Yeah.
the acronyms. Okay, so wait, could you take yourself back to a time when you were like super anxious?
Completely.
Okay.
Completely.
Okay.
And and just so you know, I'm taking myself to a time that I wasn't allowed to put in my book because it's just not the right time to bring this open. But I will. I'll bring it open. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So you're taking yourself back to a time you're super anxious about something you haven't disclosed to many people, or at least you haven't disclosed in your book. Okay. So the S in sober would be like, so you're like feeling that angst, and the S is stop. It's just like tell yourself to stop. You could imagine a stop sign. You could just say the word stop in your head, but you just say stop. Stop and go to the O, and the O is observe. So that is just observe what is going on in your mind, like what are you thinking and what's going on in your body. This part can be kind of uncomfortable because this is the sitting with it, but you're actually actively doing something, which is to like kind of describe it to yourself. So like if you're in that moment, what do you notice? Like without revealing anything that's more than you want to reveal right now about what was going on, but like what was happening in your body and what was happening in your mind.
You want me to verbally say it?
If you want to.
Oh, I mean, just something graphic. very, very uncomfortable.
Okay, so where were you experiencing that in physically? Because if you were feeling super anxious, you were feeling like, is that your heart racing? Is that you feeling sick to your stomach? Like, is that
Uh, Hearing, listening.
okay? And then when you're feeling anxious about what you're hearing and listening, what does that anxiety part feel like to you? Like, does it make you feel like your muscles are tense or like you're
Yeah, I would say
hyperventilating or like
no, not muscle
shaky?
tense would be uh, actually the best way to describe it. Yeah,
Okay. So yeah, and that's a very common way that anxiety like presents itself.
yeah,
Like you feel like a rock. Like
yeah,
it's just like your muscles feel really
yeah,
tight. It's very
yeah.
uncomfortable. I know you get shaky, but this one is not like shaky. This one's more
No,
just
no.
tense and
Nice.
like sort of reliving something that's like really
Yeah,
unpleasant. Okay. So then you move to, so now you've done the observation, and then the B is for breathe. So then you've gone from putting all your attention on what's happening in your body, what's happening in your mind, and now you try to funnel all your attention to your breath. I don't know how much you've done meditation, if that's been a thing that you've liked or a go-to,
yeah. I've
but
been doing meditation lately, actually.
oh, good. Okay. So you know how to do this. So then you can spend a minute, you can spend 5 minutes, you can spend 30 seconds. That's the nice thing about this exercise is that wherever you are, you could do this quickly or you could spend
Yeah,
more time on it depending on, what your situation is. But then you just direct all your attention to your breath, just the rising and falling of your abdomen if you're doing like good diaphragmatic breathing or just breathing in and out through your nose and just paying attention to that. So I'm gonna let you do that for like 5 seconds. Okay, so then the E is you expand your awareness just like you did now. So like you had your eyes closed, you're focusing on your breath, and then you expand your awareness and you sort of like come back to here and now.
hmm,
And then the R is respond mindfully. So the idea there is that like the R we usually do is we react. You're angry, you react. You're anxious, you react by getting out of there or panicking
yeah,
or isolating or whatever your go-to thing is that you do when you're very anxious. Um but the R now is like, okay, you've taken full stock of what you're going through right now. You leaned into it instead of running away from it. You stopped, you observed yourself, you focused on your breath after you did that. Now you're coming back to, and the respond mindfully can be anything, but it's just like what respond in a way that is taking care of yourself right now. So like maybe that's you talk to your wife or you talk to someone else or you work out because then you did that other thing
yeah.
like you were feeling anxious and you responded mindfully because you were like you paid attention to what you were feeling,
Right.
you noticed it and you're like, okay, I'm going to do something. You maybe skipped the breathing part, but
No, I
um
probably breathe.
okay, so
Yeah,
you did your own version of
yeah.
the sober exercise. I know like taking it through all those steps, it seems like a long thing, but it actually doesn't have to be a long thing.
Is that in your book? The sober
That's
this?
in my first book. This is my second book, but my
Uh,
first book is the addiction recovery skills workbok, and it has that all laid out. It has like
ah,
a whole chapter on how to become more
yeah,
mindful. Yeah,
yeah. I like it.
you like it?
Yeah.
Did it help? You don't feel it?
I don't
Do you?
feel anything. I feel good.
Okay, good.
Wow.
Because that can be hard when you're thinking about something that was traumatic or a bad memory. Like it can be hard to like bring yourself out of that, but you seem like you lived
Yeah,
through it.
I've been working on this memory for a long time, so it's pretty tough, but it's good. It's been good. So I can do whatever. I don't. It doesn't go. "Ugh," I start crying and stuff.
Yeah, for something that makes you really uncomfortable, you seem like fairly comfortable.
That was good. So do you want to get into the questions, or
Sure.
you want to just? All right. Let's now. That was cool as hell. But now we're going to get into some questions. Wipe out. Okay. This is from Book Convos. Are mental issues genetic?
That's a great question.
Do you get them or pass them on to family?
Okay, so here's how I'd answer that. So, well, there's that whole debate of like, is it nature? Is it nurture? Right? Like, do we inherit? Are we just like destined to be whatever we are and there's nothing we can do
Yeah.
about it? And I would say no, but yes, genetics are part of the puzzle. It's like a puzzle, right? So, but what we're born with is not, we're not born with mental illness, but we're born with genetic vulnerability to certain things. And it also depends sort of what specific illness you're talking about. So, like when you're talking about something like bipolar illness, there's a strong genetic component to that. But genetics are not an indication of our destiny, like I said. So, there's other things that put you at greater risk than your genes. So like your personality, your temperament, your life experiences,
Yeah.
stressors, and there are all kinds of theories about how sort of like the genes and environment like interact to lead a person to develop a mental health problem. But the idea is generally that certain things happen in life that can then sort of activate or like turn on those genes. But it
Yeah.
doesn't happen to everybody. So there are some people who have mental illness or addiction in their family who never become
No.
addicted. And then there are like shared genetic factors. So like people with bipolar disorder, for example, there's sort of a shared genetic vulnerability to other things like addiction. You don't have addiction, but you do have bipolar.
Yeah.
So like those genes are not all going to get expressed in your
Right.
lifetime.
And
just
none of my
because you
kids
them.
have bipolar. So,
That's awesome.
and I have 4 kids. So, do mental issues ever truly go away?
Um,
I don't think so. I
so
wish.
yes and no. Okay, so if you get the right kind of help and support for mental issues, it's not that they go away. That the mental. Okay, here's what goes away and here's what doesn't go away. Put it this way: the symptoms can go away. Like if you get the right, like for example, you're on medication for bipolar disorder. You haven't had an episode in
32 years.
32 years. Okay, so yeah, that went away. Like though that
It went
that
away.
went away.
Yeah.
But the vulnerability that you have to that happening again or to reacting to certain situations with anxiety and all some of the other kinds of things that
Yeah.
go along with it, that vulnerability is there and it's something that doesn't go away. But
Right.
if you know how to manage it, like
Yeah.
once you figure out
Yeah.
that puzzle,
Yeah.
life is going to have ups and downs for all of us. So we're always going to have to navigate something. It's just more
Yeah.
about
It's just that the ups and downs for bipolar mental illness is a lot more. It's a lot higher than just regular. Like I said to people, however you felt when you were depressed or had anxiety, triple it. That's how unfortunately, the way I feel with that kind of pain because of what I got. Because a lot of people don't really understand what that feels like.
most people don't.
Most people don't.
Most people don't.
But I
It's
think,
only like 3% of the population who has bipolar.
but
So,
I
yeah.
think after the pandemic, though, I think it's gotten much better. A lot more suicides, which is what we'll talk to next time. All right. Hypnotherapy. I told you already. You didn't know. My buddy does it, and I didn't fly for 10 years. And even when every time I've flown, I had anxiety. Well, he did it, hypnotized me, and I've flown 16 planes without anxiety. So if you can do it,
That's amazing.
it's cool as hell. I don't always believe I'm not that strong when it comes to my own struggles with my social anxiety and depression.
So the question is,
I don't know if there's a question. I just think just doesn't feel strong, and there's nothing really to say to that except whenever I go through things, There's nobody more fragile than me. But I got a T-shirt that says, "You are stronger than you know," which is what my wife said to me, or what she says to me every time I get sick. When I say to her, "I can't do it. I can't. You are stronger than you know. Keep moving. Keep moving forward. You're fine. You're gonna be." It's the only thing we can say to that. It's not,
Yeah, that's what you have to tell yourself to get through it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see this.
But you can also ask someone who's close to you, like, when have you seen me be strong?
Okay.
They might be able to see something you can't see in yourself.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of the theory of Paulo's theory,
Yeah.
but it's asking somebody at least they can give you that answer. And let's hope that we can tell people that's the way you have to speak to people who are going through a manic episode or anxiety or depression. I always say, because it's all I can say. People come to me everywhere. What do I say to I said, how do I do? Love and patience.
Mhm. That's it.
I don't know what else. I know what I want during that period. It's love and patience. Because when I get to those people that think they can be, tough with me, or it doesn't work. Ask him. Ask her about eating clean and how it affects mental health in our youth with anxiety.
Yeah, I don't know too much about the literature on eating and mental health. It's I don't think there's a ton of research there. I know there was a question in there about a keto diet though. Um, and that I was able to find some published studies on. Is that the next question about
I think I erased that one.
oh, that one?
But still, eating is always. I mean, it's kind of natural that if you eat well, it's probably going to be better for your.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how else to.
Well, like UCLA is launching a study on a ketogenic diet for young people with bipolar disorder, and the idea is that that's not going to like replace mood stabilizers like lithium. Like that would be like an add-on kind of thing, because we
Yeah.
like know from decades of research that mood stabilizers work for bipolar disorder,
Yeah.
and we know so little about diet. So that's what I would like caution, like when there's new research in an area that something dietary and mental health, just make sure you don't like stop whatever you're doing that's prescribed by a doctor and
Right,
latch
right.
on to that,
That's very
because you
true.
don't know yet until you have
Very
enough
true.
research. But there were a couple of studies on the ketogenic diet and bipolar that showed that people, well, they lost weight. So if they were overweight, like, of course they're going to feel better,
Yeah.
right? And there are some like metabolic problems that overlap with bipolar, like obesity. Obviously, you don't have that.
No, no.
But like obesity and type 2 diabetes does overlap with bipolar. So, staying on a healthy diet, like that can only improve your mood
Yeah.
and your anxiety.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
I will say this: I still have it. Psoriasis. This I don't really talk to, but since Suzette's here, I'm going to talk about it. I had anxiety, man. I mean, not anxiety. I have that too, but real bad psoriasis. Anything that I would try just didn't work. I even went to a great, dermatologist who said it didn't work. So my psychiatrist says to me, "You got high cholesterol." I got everything, and everything in those commercials. If you have bipolar 1, if you have depression, if you have anxiety, if you have, I have it all. I just say, yeah, because it's just what so I have high cholesterol even. If you have high cholesterol. So he said, why don't you take krill for your high cholesterol? Krill is like a shrimp oil. Okay. And you take it like a vitamin, 1. So I started taking it. See what it does to my high cholesterol. But guess what? No psoriasis. I had psoriasis way here like crazy. Didn't have to put a lot of makeup on General Hospital. Psoriasis back here on my legs. Gone. Krill. Unreal, right?
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Unreal. I mean, it was getting to the point at GH, like, I was starting to go, why are you putting so much makeup? Because look at your face. It was all like in here.
Oh, it's so uncomfortable.
It was not cool.
Yeah.
And then she's like,
Where'd it go?
what did you do? I said, I didn't do it. I don't know, but it's gone. I said, it's the krill.
That's great.
I know, no, it's unreal. So people can what research is there regarding depression induced by brain injury that is resistant to medication and other therapies? Are there any other methods of treating it?
Oh, well, first I would say like make sure you've exhausted the therapies because like the two most effective from research on depression that's tied to traumatic brain injury are SSRI medications, so like in the Zoloft family,
Yeah.
and cognitive behavioral therapy that's helping you kind of like learn to think differently and understand how your thoughts lead to different emotions and sort of like change those patterns. So if none of that's working, there is new research for specifically for treatment resistant depression, but I don't know if this would be good for someone with a traumatic brain injury because there's brain stimulation therapies. So you'd have to ask your doctor about that. But they have sort of like newer ones that are not invasive. You don't need anesthesia. They're just kind of like doing very targeted brain stimulations and brain stimulation in certain areas. It takes like maybe 4 to 6 weeks. You go in 5 days a week, and it helps for treatment resistant depression, anxiety, migraines, OCD. Like there's a lot of new research coming out about that. But again, if you're like somebody with a brain injury, you definitely have to talk with your neurologist to see if brain stimulation is safe.
Yeah, that's good. Michelle G, my question is it impossible for someone to distrust a therapist or psychiatrist and find it difficult to open up to them or anyone? Like only allowing your blinds to open up a little to friends, family, people you meet besides a therapist. A lot of people related to whatever.
Well, I'd say like one of the things about like the therapy relationship is very unique because this person is there for you, just there to listen to you and be there for you and usually don't know too much about the person, but they're really there, to help you with really good therapy. That becomes sort of like a model
Yeah.
for the rest of the world. So like if you are someone who can't trust anyone, but you can form like a really good bond with a therapist
Yeah.
and you can talk to them about what she's describing where like I can trust you, but this isn't working for me with anybody else. They can help you sort of explore what that is. And once you build that trust, it gives you a little bit of optimism and hope that, okay, like there are people in this world who I can trust. Like my
Yeah.
therapist, let me try this out with somebody else. And you have to kind of like, it might have to be a slow trickle of like, you're not telling them all of your, deepest innermost thoughts, but you may have to push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone with the
Yes.
person you think you could trust the most so that you can develop those bonds because that is very limiting in life if you can't
Yeah.
close to anybody.
Yeah. Mr. Beach, Mr. Bernard, from your conversations on SOM, I guess, yeah, you have learned so much about your guests. My question is, what has been the most surprising lesson you've learned about yourself through your conversations on State of Mind? Thank you for it. What have I learned? I've learned that that this is something that I didn't know I could do because nothing in my acting career or said to me, you'd be good at interviewing people. I never thought myself that way. It just kind of, it was a progression that had to happen from the car when I'm talking to a phone to starting to talk to people I just was very nervous early on. And to me, it's always been, and I'll say it again, it's not today because we're doing our thing here, which I like a lot, but it's usually a date, a lunch. Hey, how you doing? Where you from? Oh, wow, you went to fucking Minnesota, really? You went, well, yeah. Oh, okay, cool. And so when did you start? Oh, you started your thing here? How was it? Your boss? What was your boss like? Oh, wow. Okay. So then what? Then your mom didn't like. That's how it just became. That's I never want to see it as an interview because I don't really believe that I'm an interviewer. I believe that I'm very good at telling stories and having conversations and listening because of acting. But I don't believe because I see Joe Rogan and these guys, they know about everything. I'm not that guy. But I will get the guests to look great. Like Suzette, today she's on fire. I didn't do a lot of work. I didn't need to do a lot of work. She just did it herself. So that kind of stuff, I let that go. But that's it. All right, one more, and let's get the heck out. Let's see. No, that's not fair. I want one more for you. Are you considering retiring? These fucking people. Have you ever thought about using SO and the other advocacy work as a platform to help? Maybe you can help me on this one. We'll end it on this one because
All right.
I didn't really understand it, but maybe you bring on the gates. Have you ever thought about using State of Mind or other advocacy work you do as a platform to help LE agencies create training for interfacing with mentally ill people? Sounds great. So that fewer that wind up getting killed, fewer of them wind up getting killed. But I don't know what LE agencies are.
Yeah, I don't know the LE part. Oh, that's cool. I mean, yeah, the idea that this could be a way of educating law enforcement
that's cool.
about what is happening with a person when they're experiencing an episode
Yeah.
of like psychosis or other mental illness or anxiety or, and helping them learn how to respond to it. Because actually, that's a thing, like when people are suicidal, sometimes there's a way to contact a psychiatric emergency team to come
Yeah.
and check on them, and they're trained to like maybe take them into custody, like to take them to a hospital involuntarily if that's what they need to be safe. But sometimes the law enforcement gets deployed because they don't have the psychiatric specialists.
Right.
And that can be a very traumatic experience for somebody with a mental health issue, that the law enforcement comes in and they forcibly take them to a hospital, but in a way that is very scary.
Yeah.
And they don't really know how to talk to them,
Yeah.
like, about what they're doing and why. So they feel like they're in trouble,
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing can be very traumatic. So, I mean, that's a really good point, is that
It's a-
there is more education.
Look,
needed in that
people
area.
have asked me about that, and even kind of, I think, a police officer, like, would I go in and talk to someone and that? But the problem is that responsibility is too huge, and I'm not a professional, but I can tell I'm pretty damn good at maybe somebody who wants to kill themselves. I have a better chance than most of talking that person down because I've lived that,
Yeah.
being in that state of mind. So I understand the pain, whereas most people don't understand the pain. But the problem is, then the person kills himself. Then you're like, you feel like it's your fault. How not screwed up is that? So, but it's I like doing it from here, like we're doing now, because you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
All right. Uh, I want to say, Suzette, this was really good. It was for me, and I think it will be for the audience. And we got to do it again, and you got to keep on my ass because I just forget and I just don't do it. So if we could do this every 2 months, once every 2 months, if I don't respond, once every 3 months, but this was real smooth and real cool. So I think it helps people. I can't wait to see this one. I really can't.
It's fun to be here.
Yeah, it was good. It was something interesting. It was just easy, like real easy. And go to her podcast. What is it again?
The Dr. Suzette Glassner podcast. It's on YouTube, Spotify. You find it
The
everywhere.
Dr. Suzette Glassner podcast. It's on YouTube, everywhere, Spotify. As long as she doesn't get more subscriptions than I get, then we're all good there. I'm just kidding. All right, thank you. State of mind. See you later.